I cannot do that without the sunglasses. Nope. Hi friends, welcome back to Disabled Farm School. I'm Rachel, and it's been a minute. It's been a rough couple of weeks. I haven't posted in a minute. Been really symptomatic, really not feeling well, and not able to do much because of that. Trying to stop saying I've fallen behind, because if you deal with chronic symptoms that affect how much you can do unpredictably, framing it as constantly falling behind is psychologically torturous. So, yeah. Anyway, it's been a couple of rough weeks for me. It's been a couple of very rough weeks in the world. And I have been thinking both a lot about what gets me back out into the world when I've been stuck in bed, and also what might be the most useful in supporting my communities and all of y'all in this moment of pretty extreme and increasing danger for a lot of people. Yeah, and I think obviously sharing this beautiful place that I am privileged and lucky enough to live in with you all via video, and letting some of that joy and beauty and nature find you if it can, is something that I feel very passionate about. And keeping each other company is something I feel very passionate about, especially for those who are isolated and frightened right now. And also, as you may have garnered if you've watched some of my other videos here, I care very much about skilling up our incredibly local communities in resilience and survival, and our ability to create networks of care and mutual aid for each other and for the land. And the way that I do that is through land-based living skills. And some other ways too. I make art and performances and other things that are about helping us survive. And then I do a lot of sustainable design and gardening stuff about helping us build alternatives, build systems that actually allow us and the planet to thrive. And doing it now, not in a sort of like far off utopian way, because as we can see, as we're experiencing, we need it immediately. We need it yesterday. And we have to find out how to keep us not just safe, not just surviving, but nourished and resilient, and with some modicum of hope. And for me, that always comes back to growing food. So if you are not able to grow food for your community, but you know someone who might be, pass this video along to them and remind them that gardening, which may seem like a luxury in a system that has completely outsourced all of our food production away from our homes, and does not treat farm laborers with very much dignity, especially right now because of the intersecting identities and positions of most of the farm workers in the U.S. who literally provide our food and are massively under attack from so many different sides right now in this system. So if you have money to give, to donate to support farm workers, especially those who may be here from other places, or who may be targeted for being here from other places, even if they are not here from other places, please do that. Obviously, when we grow our own food, we don't want to withdraw support from farm workers. We want to continue to support farm workers and know how to grow our own food at the same time, and honor the dignity and knowledge and hard labor of farm workers by many means. What does that mean on a practical level? I think a lot of people right now are panicking about what do I do? And especially if you experience chronic illness or disability and there aren't that many things that you can physically do, that can feel really challenging. Also, a lot of people who experience those things aren't going to have that much money to move around for things like mutual aid or redistribution or bail funds, that kind of thing. So I'm going back to basics here, and I'm just going to share with you how to grow food, because as I talked about in another video, networks of care, resilient networks of care, ecological networks of care, we start at the bottom. If you subscribe to the concept of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we start at the bottom. Food, shelter, water. Those are the first three. Then we look at social connection, medicine, and it goes from there. In our built environment, that also means transit. Ability to get to each other and get to the food and get the food to each other and get the medicine to each other. And so we can look at all of those things, but there are so many incredible teachers out there who have been, for time immemorial, developing ways to do those things that are much more regionalized or localized and are much more in collaboration with versus violence towards each other and the planet. And they're pragmatic skills that you can learn. And if you can't do them because of your physical or other limitations, you can still share information about them, and you can still enjoy them and get the nourishment and the social connection from them, because most of them are also skills that have always been done in community. And many of us who are isolated need to find new ways to do that, hence this video. Obviously, we have no idea how or how long the internet is going to remain a way for us to connect in this world, but that's always been true. When I was born, the internet didn't exist for us. And so let's plant some seeds. Let's grow some food. This is truly pragmatic right now, especially if you're concerned about the economy. Enough rambling. Gosh, I try so hard to make these concise, and they just aren't. I'm just going to listen to the birds for a minute. At the heart of it, there's two things I want to say, or I want to share. And one is, I've been really struggling physically and therefore psychologically and socially the last few weeks. And I feel very demoralized about my abilities and lack thereof right now. As many of you know, it's been a very long time since I've been able to work consistently in any way, even part-time. It's been years. This channel is the first even slightly consistent thing I've been able to do, and that required an incredible amount of work on my part to regain some amount of a baseline of function, which is now a little bit volatile again the past few weeks. And I really enjoy doing it. But I think, and I'm feeling quite demoralized about ever actually making any kind of a financial living on my own. I've really, really been lucky enough to be able to, but had to rely on the generosity and luck and privilege and position of myself and others to survive financially. And that is a huge privilege, especially as we're watching funding and laws for supportive disabled folks be just under attack and dismantled. And, there's so many different, it's coming at us from so many different directions, and we know that's intentional. Yeah, I think I'm just really, really hoping that someday this could be a monetized channel, which just means that it would have ads and maybe sponsorships, which I know not everybody loves, and some people think of us selling out, but often some of us we gotta get the money to where it's needed for people to survive and thrive. That's really what I think about, and that doesn't cost viewers anything. If you're willing to share your attention and your like or your subscribe or your comment so that this channel is seen by YouTube as something worth putting ads on, which usually requires 1,000 subscribers and pretty consistent viewership, then that means that I can make these videos and share my journey and also some of my knowledge with all of you. I can give what I have to give, you can give what you have to give, what you actually have available to give, not something you don't have available to give. And these companies that have lots of money can give what they have to give, which is money back to disabled people like you and me. Or maybe a friend of yours if you're not in that category currently. We all will be eventually if we live long enough, so don't worry, you got the inside scoop. The second thing I want to share, that's sort of my personal, like, I really hate not being able to work on things because I love to make things, because I love to connect, because I love to contribute, but also I just like need to be out digging in the soil and doing something with my hands. But also I need I'm kind of losing it. It's like been a lot of years of not being able to access making a living, and I really want this to work. And desperation, people don't like that energy, so hello. So I don't want to like put that on you, but I also want to be honest. And the honest feeling is I'm like definitely stuck in the this is never going to work and I don't know what I'm going to do kind of phase. And I'm lucky enough that I can take the time to try to make it work. I don't know, I think I'm a little in the like, well, I could really use the like feedback loop of the financial side of doing work that I haven't had in a long time. Anyway, the second thing is just the feeling of like really feeling how quickly things are escalating and how scary and chaotic things are systemically and on a national and international scale right now. And seeing people, especially around like supply chain stuff, just absolutely panic, and knowing that I have something I can share there, which is how do we grow our own food, has really galvanized me. I really want to be sharing this process. I really want to be growing as much of my own food as possible. And we've got to figure out how to do it for each other because, you know, obviously our various limitations mean that not everyone can be doing it. But I think it's something you can play with right now, and that's part of what's hopeful about it. Like, it's not too late to plant food for the year. It's something you can do for relatively little financial input. Get together with friends, utilize people's different abilities and capacities, and, you know, or share this video with someone in your community who might want to grow food. It's not a luxury, it is the fundamental necessity. We need food to survive and thrive, to take care of each other. And we cannot actually address anything else if we are not able to feed ourselves and each other. So if you need something to do right now, plant a seed. Not like, that's not like a wooey metaphorical, like I'm like, get a cheap packet of seeds and grow some food and share it with your neighbors. Especially if you aren't sure what you have to give, giving people food is a great place to start. Drop it in a community fridge, or just feed yourself, feed your dog, you know, just doing that act, it will help us feel more hopeful. And it's also truly pragmatic. And that's, you know, the intersection I love. What I actually wanted to do today, you guys, I don't really know what I'm doing. I know a lot of stuff and I want to share it and I want to do it, but I also don't know jack. Also, Juniper is neck deep underground. She's been digging for a gopher for the last 30 minutes. She caught one yesterday. So that was a conflicted moment for me as a farmer, but as a lover of animals. Anyway, I put it over the fence for the vultures. So it didn't, you know, we want everything to stay in the loop of survival and thrival. We're going to say it because it rhymes. What I wanted to do today, and I think I'm still going to do, is teach y'all how to make potting soil, or show you how I do it anyway, for pretty cheap. Now, this is also something, if you have money but less capacity physically, definitely, by all means, buy potting soil. There's no judgment there. Whatever makes this accessible to you within your particular means. I've got a bunch of seedlings here that are way past due to go in the ground, but I have not been well. And so creating garden beds that are fully gopher and bird proof, which is a priority, has only happened in this one area here on the terrace. And it took a lot out of me. But I do have soybeans and bush beans in the ground, and that feels really good to me. Got protein in the ground. I have yet to get a bean plant all the way up to producing on this site because they get devoured by every creature. So I'm really hoping these make it this year. I've got a bunch of other seedlings in little trays, and a cool thing from farming that I think is really helpful for any kind of limitation that means that you might not get to something at the time that you planned to, whether that's, again, like having kids or having 3 jobs or having disabilities or, having a panic attack at the news every 5 minutes, whatever it is that's limiting you right now. Seedlings, rather than planting directly in the ground, can help offset some of those things. It can also help with space issues. So I was going to just take these seedlings, my beautiful babies, and plant them directly into garden beds. The garden beds aren't ready. These seedlings will get devoured if I do that. But also, these seedlings are root bound. They've been in here too long. There's not enough space for them. So even if I gave them nutrients in these containers, they don't have enough space, and they're gonna start to stunt or bolt because they can feel that they don't have enough space and they wanna make seeds before they completely die from lack of space and nutrients. That does not support getting a big plant with lots of food on it. That will get you a tiny plant with seeds very soon. These are stressed out plants, but I also can't put them in the ground. I'm gonna do what's called stepping up. And that's basically getting a bigger seedling pot and putting each of these in a bigger pot with new nutrients and more space. And that will buy me some time to finish getting the rest of the garden beds ready. And also, it gives me individual seedlings so I can give a few of them to some friends. So I'm gonna do that today, but to do that, I need potting soil. I don't want to spend money, and I have the ingredients for potting soil already here. Only one of them was purchased, and that is coconut coir. Coconut coir is basically fur or hair from coconuts, which are creatures that grow on trees. I mean, sorry, they're not creatures. They seem like creatures. They have that little face. They've got fur. Gosh, are they creatures? They're not creatures, guys. They're not. Anyway, coconut coir is a much more sustainable alternative to something you find in a lot of potting soils, which is peat. Peat is a effectively non-renewable resource because of how long it takes to regenerate. It's cut from peat bogs, which are an incredibly important, I guess, biome. They're like a whole ecosystem, and when we remove it, we are removing a huge carbon sink from the world, and we're destroying that particular cycle and ecosystem, and they don't regenerate fast enough for it to be considered a renewable source of structure for our potting soil. So it's there to hold water in the soil because these are little guys, so they can dry out really fast. It creates soil structure, which creates the pockets for air and water that the roots need to grow into. It also keeps when I pulled that little seedling out, the roots are doing part of holding it together, but the organic material, that fibrous material in the soil, is also what's keeping it from falling apart, which is what allows us to then transplant it into the ground. So you need something like that, that's like a structural, fibrous, water-retaining item in a potting soil, and I'm using coconut coir. You need soil, which I will take from the ground because I have ground. If you're in an apartment, see if you can borrow some from a neighbor, or it's okay to buy it. If you have soil but you think it might be contaminated by something, you can get a very inexpensive soil test. But also, a lot of people will share when they're doing like landscaping projects, they'll be like clean dirt on Craigslist for free, and you can go get some clean dirt or have a friend bring it to you. You also need, or I'm also going to add, a nutrient-rich fertilizer, quote unquote, a compost. In my case, it's worm castings, which is a fancy gardener's way of saying poop. I have a worm compost bin, and so it's time to harvest from it anyway. I'm going to sift out the worms, feed the worms to the chickens because I have a lot of worms and my chickens need protein right now. Worm castings are like nutrient gold. If you don't have worm castings, a lot of places that have municipal compost will give the compost back to their community for free. So you can do that. You can also buy a little bag of compost and then stretch it a really long way by adding it to native soil. If you don't want to do coconut coir or you don't want to purchase anything, I've also cut up straw, dried out grasses, to put in as a structure, organic matter, and water container. You just want to make sure you don't get the seeds. So if you're using grass that you've cut it long, cut the seed heads off, and then let it dry separately from the seed heads and cut it up and put it in there. Most commercial potting soil that you see will have something called perlite in it. These little, almost like styrofoamy rocks that are porous, they're lightweight. They keep the soil from getting so dense that you end up rotting your seedling. They make sure there's air pockets and airflow. They make sure there's water pockets. They are a mined resource as far as I understand, and I prefer not to use those unless I absolutely have to. So when I first put my babies in potting soil and their seeds and they're super sensitive, I used purchased potting soil this time, and it does have perlite in it. No shame in whatever way you need to do this, but those are some considerations when I think about ingredients. And again, we want nutrients, we want soil, and then we want something that creates structure and holds water. I've even made potting soil with just native soil and compost before, and that was fine. Compost and like in-ground soil also have organic matter in them. They also have soil structure in them. And it's not the end of the world. If you don't do the proportions exactly right, I always estimate them. I'm gonna sift the native soil because it's full of rocks. I'm gonna sift the worm castings because it's full of worms. I don't need to sift the coconut coir, but what I did do was soak it because it comes in these condensed bricks. And when you soak it in water overnight, it expands like 5 times its size. I thought I ordered a brick this size, but I ordered like a 1.5 foot cube. So I have an immense amount of coconut coir, probably enough for the rest of the year, if not more, and I'm pretty excited to get into it. So now that I've rambled for 6 billion hours, which is what happens when I don't film for 2 weeks, I guess, let's do some actual gardening before I completely crash for the day and you get really bored of looking at the exact same frame. Okay. Over here I've got okra, I've got beans, and I've got some melons, which I'm very excited about. Then we've got corn. This is popcorn. It's a purple popcorn. I've never grown popcorn before. I'm excited. We've got a dog that may have just killed a gopher. I can't tell. We've got artichokes, onions, some more beans. And then over here we've got dill, basil. The Tulsi is not sprouting. We've got some zinnias, native zinnias. And we've got winter squash, peppers, and tomatoes. This is like truly, she is, first of all, just totally aerated the soil in this whole area, which is great for me, and I need to think about what to plant here as a thank you. But like, she's in a hole. I don't know how to, that's her collar. All right, look. Okay, if you don't like worms or compost, just skip ahead like 2 minutes. So this is the worm bin, and I just took the cardboard and paper insulation off the top of the right side. I've been feeding on the right side to try to encourage all the worms to go over there. And oh, they're here. There's so many of them. Hello, buddies. I love them. These are red wriggler worms. They are great at making compost. They are very cool creatures. I advise reading about worms. They're really weird and cool. They got a bunch of 4-chambered hearts and They're all hermaphroditic. They're very cool. They don't have teeth, but they have a little thing full of grit that helps them break stuff down. And they're really amazing. A worm bin is also a way that you can immediately do something about growing food fully on site, which is all of my food leftovers that aren't meat or dairy go in here. You can also use worms to pretty much digest anything, but I have this very close to my back door, so I don't want those smells, and I'm not really good enough at like pathogen containment and control, to be responsible for a meat-based worm bin, but you absolutely can do it. You just need to look up how. This in the middle, I don't know if you can see, is actually just porous. And so this is a 2-chambered worm compost bin. It's actually a deck box that I bought that works really well as a seat or a seedling table as well. And so whichever side you want to harvest the castings, you put the worm food, which is kitchen leftovers, on the other side. So I've been feeding over here on the right for a while. Hopefully they've moved through that porous barrier because it's got holes in it that are bigger than them, and they're mostly over here. And then whichever ones are on the side that I harvest from will also become chicken food or get dumped back in here, or you can share them with a friend to start their own worm bin. Oh yeah, so there's still worms on this side, but there's way less. I'm just gonna go in here and I'm gonna grab this good stuff. Gardener's Gold. Stuff goes a long way. It's very potent, and so I'm not actually harvesting that much of it for this set of seedlings, this set of potting soil. Okay, so I've got my little sitting down accessible spade and some gloves for sifting the native soil, which is what I'm going to start with because there's a lot of rocks in it. Juniper has fully dug up one of the paths that I spent many long months building, so that's exciting. Let's make some potting soil. I've got my soil sifter. Oh, I'd probably also add some water to this. We'll see though. Start with native soil. Feel well. It's okay, Junie. Come here. You okay? We both might have just need to like be a little chiller, me and this dog. It's okay. Where are you? You gonna eat some grass? The reason, by the way, that I'm sifting the in-ground soil so that I can get the rocks out is that seedlings are small with small roots, and so a little rock can be a big deal to them. But it's also, especially for stepping up into a bigger container where they already have those established roots, not as big of a deal as when you're planting seeds, right? Like a seed compared to this rock is like, that's a wall for that seed. But once they go in the garden, I want to get rid of the really big rocks, but some smaller pebbles can be part of the soil structure. They're not inherently bad. Just when you're thinking about making potting soil, especially if you're putting seeds in that potting soil, thinking about how easy it is for a tiny little first root or first sprout, it's not even a first root, that comes out of that seed to make it to the surface of the soil, and then the first little root to get down compared to even like a small rock. Sort of imagining that scale, that's where it sort of starts to matter more. I've sifted a bunch of the in-ground soil. The thing I forgot to mention, it's also really heavy clay soil. And so, Sifting it gives you a much nicer soil clump size to mix your other ingredients with, because let me show you, right? So this is it sifted, and that's it squeezed together, and that will dry into almost a rock. Now I'm going to add coconut coir, and then I'm going to sift the worm castings, which is a little bit gentler of a sift, and then put the worms back in a bucket and keep them in the shade so they don't start dehydrating, and then take them up to the chickens later. So let's get some coconut coir. I'll show you what it looks like. So this is coconut coir. So this has been soaked, and it's fluffy hair from coconuts. Love it. I'm gonna add this and mix it in. You can see it starts to coat the particles of clay to keep them from clumping back up. Ooh, it's so gloopy. There was some rainwater in this wheelbarrow. You can do this with gloves or a shovel, if you prefer. I feel like you should know that immediately behind the camera is this. Now there's soil and coconut coir all over the camera, so that's good. Let's add some worm castings. So like I said, a little gentler here. Just gonna they're so cool. Everything's very wet, which is making sifting take longer. That's okay, because I don't feel good and I can go slow. I swear I'm capable of it. Really, truly. All right, so this is too wet, but it also has too much coconut coir in it. And the way I can tell is, I get a little handful. The way I can tell it's too wet is it looks like mud, which isn't good for the soil structure. And I squeeze it, I squeeze the water out, and it breaks apart immediately. So if I can tap it and it breaks apart that quickly, it's too, it's not congealing enough or cohering enough. If it doesn't break apart after like 2 or 3 taps, it's too clayey. And so I want to put some more ground soil in here. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. I also just realized I have like a bit of a bag of store-bought potting soil left. So I might also mix that in here so that we can really extend the supply of everything, dry this out a little bit, and have enough to do a bunch of seedlings. So yeah, I could be a perfectionist and a purist and only show you the homemade potting soil, but that's not what I would do if the camera was off. I would put the other stuff in here, so I'm going to do that. I'm also adding a little sand because I realized I had some that can help with drainage and breaking up the clay. So let's mix this all together. Let's test the theory. See, that doesn't break when I shake my hand. That's good. Tap, tap, tap. 3 taps, it's broken down, but it doesn't crumble. Much better ratios. Like that sand in there. All right. Okay. We're back on the terrace. We've got a thing full of potting soil. We've got the babies. We're going to give them some bigger houses. Oh, walking up the hill with that incredibly heavy wet potting soil really makes me want to emphasize how much I don't recommend putting that much water in. Mostly I've got some little 4-inch pots that I'm going to step these babies up into. So I'm going to do one demo of how I step up a seedling in case you're wondering how to do it. I did just want to say I also think seedlings and thinking about what they need is also a good way to think about taking care of ourselves and each other and what care networks look like and mutual aid looks like. The seedling needs water, it needs nutrients, which it gets from the soil and from the atmosphere. It needs space, but also shelter. So these have a container and they need a certain amount of space in that. And then they've also been under bird netting, and I've brought them in when it was raining so hard that it was breaking their leaves. They need interconnection. That's not, again, like a wooey thing. Outdoor plants rely on networks of mycelium and microbes and physical structures that are much bigger than them in the soil to get what they need, water and nutrient-wise, but also for communication. And they rely on exchange of gases. That's literally, we breathe out what they take in through their leaves. They rely on the sun, which we all rely on. They rely on each other, depending on the plant species and how they work. That can look a lot of different ways. They rely on critters, pollinators. They don't function without interconnection and resilient, robust systems of offerings and needs. And engaging with a need, like putting out a need or putting out an offering, are both ways to build that system of resilience and care. So if all you can think of right now are needs that you can offer, great. You don't have to give anything. If you're just like really depleted, you're still building networks of care when you are honest about a need. And it's really scary and it's really vulnerable. And a lot of us who have a lot of care needs don't get them met. And it can be really painful to put them out there when nobody is available, everyone else is tapped. But I think we are gonna have to learn more than ever how to take care of ourselves and each other when we're super tapped and when we're super depleted, without going so far that we cause harm to ourselves. If you have people who are stressed but might have some capacity, it's still okay to ask them, I think, to help you with stuff, especially if it's fun stuff like planting. I feel like I forgot something that the plants need. We said water, nutrients, space, shelter, interconnection. Oh, they need protection. They need safety. And that's part of shelter, but also we might do things like spray them with something called compost tea to help them fight off fungal diseases or that kind of thing. They need medicine. They need those things that help them rebalance and resil. Is that a verb? Just like we do. So a good place to figure out what you need is to figure out what your seeds need and figure out how to meet those things for the seeds, and then look at that same list for yourself and ask for some help, or offer some help meeting those needs for yourself or for someone else in your community. And one way you can do that is to grow food together. I'm gonna put some potting soil in here, and because it's wet, I'm not packing it down super hard, but I'm filling it all the way up. I'm gonna label it. So these are midnight black beans, and I actually took them from my kitchen, so this is an experiment. Take my seedling tray, and I'm gonna squeeze the bottom just gently, a little squeeze, and it's better to not touch the stems of your seedlings too much, so I'll do one pull out like that, and then I'm gonna hold it by the soil. If your seedlings are root bound, like mine are, if your plant's roots have started to go around or back up, you can just tickle them a little bit to open up the structure. And the reason is because otherwise they might keep just growing around and around and not use the new space. And that will once again stress the plant and it will bolt. Okay, I'm gonna make a hole. Now, for a lot of these plants, you can plant them as deep as the first set of leaves. So I'm gonna make a hole that's much deeper than this little soil ball, like that. And then move the soil back in around the stem. I'm gonna press down on either side once. And that's just to make sure that it's not sitting in a big air pocket where the roots can't touch the new soil. So I'm not trying to compact the soil. I just wanna make sure that it's got good contact. And there it is. I'm gonna put it back under the bird netting. And this is very wet potting soil, so I'm not gonna water. But if you haven't got wet potting soil, you wanna water. And now you've bought yourself a bunch more time before you need to get these puppies in the ground. And you can continue to feed them a little bit of worm compost if you need to buy even more time by putting it on top of the soil and then watering it in. They won't need that yet because they just got a bunch of new nutrients. So there you go. Hopefully this is gonna grow some storable proteins, some black beans that can dry and store, which is honestly so relieving. Like, it makes me feel so much safer to think about that. That, like, you know, if the grocery stores were empty, I'd have black beans for myself and my neighbors, my friends. It's pretty cool. Have fun and take care. God, I'm so tired, y'all. I feel like I forgot how to do this in just 2 weeks. Juniper, you can lay down. It's okay, sweetie. Yeah, I should be saying that to myself. I'll say it to you too. You can lay down. It's okay. We can take care of each other. Start where you can with what's joyful and accessible. And I'll see you next time on Disabled Farm School, where gardening is for everybody. And we are learning how together.